Welcome everyone to Brand Champions. Today, we are going to do a mailbag episode. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions to the mailbag. If you're interested in submitting a question, the email address is brandchampions@questus.com. Let's dive on in.
3, 2, 1, go!
And the first question, is there a single most important ingredient for building a great brand or building a great agency? I picked this question because there's something that's been on my mind quite a bit lately. And if you look at the history of advertising, if you go back to the Mad Men era and you think about Phyllis Robinson, if you read the autobiography from David Ogilvy, Confessions of a Madman, if you fast forward to the next generation and you read Donnie Deutsch's autobiography, whose title said it all, Often Wrong, Never in Doubt. Right? And then you go to the next generation, Alex Bogusky. As soon as he retired, he started something called the Fearless Cottage. If you listen to all of the conversations from David Droga, right, going through that 70-year span ballpark, there's one critical ingredient. It's courage. And if you grew up playing sports and you had a coach, you might have heard this expression, courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I know that's a little bit of locker room cheese, but it's so goddamn true. If you think about every great campaign, every great piece of work, think about what's going on right now. Don't just look at the Cannes Lions Awards. A lot of that is bullcrap, but go through the creative that's in there and trust your own gut instinct. The greatest work has such a high degree of courage. It's not trying to figure out how to create the next great 30-second spot that you're interrupting people with. It's not figuring out how to make the next great banner ad or pop-up that interrupts people and gets folks to click here and buy now. It's something that looks at the world through the lens of the audience, which is a fundamental change from previous generations. When I think about the best work that we've ever done, I think about this rap contest we did for Suzuki motorcycles that went so viral, Michael Jordan's team called us. And instead of us paying them what normally would be tens of millions of dollars, they said, we want to participate. We want to pay you. We want to invest in this because what you're doing is so powerful. We want to be part of it as a title sponsor. When we think about a campaign for a hotel brand where we found very deserving kids and built them a baseball team from scratch, championship coach, built their uniforms, took care of all their travel logistics, created docuseries where they went from literally terrible baseball players to playing in the championship game and millions of people watching through a docuseries. When I think about the Human Hug Project, which we did for another hotel brand, and it was veterans fighting suicide through the power of a hug. In all of these, driving a return on ad spend 4 times, and sometimes 6 or more times higher than industry standard. All of that comes down to not simply courage, but one indisputable truth, which is brands and CMOs, they don't know exactly what they want. That's not their job. They know exactly where they want to go. They know the financial metrics. They understand the number of customers they want to acquire. They understand the amount of brand lift they want to get. They understand the market share that they need. They understand the return on investment, but they don't know exactly how to get there. If they knew exactly how to get there, they would hire a production shop. So great agencies, whether it's internal or external, it all comes down to courage, the willingness, the desire, the ability, the pure fight, and almost hubris to say, look, I've read the brief, I understand the brief, and I can push us in a more powerful direction. So often briefs will actually outline exactly what is being asked. X number of units in the top of the funnel, X number of units in the lower funnel. But really what you need to focus in on is, what is the business trying to accomplish? How much demand do they need to generate? How much brand do they need to elevate? Or perhaps most importantly, how do we manage the connection between brand and demand? Here's the enemy. The enemy is incrementalism. What we're looking for is not incremental results, but exponential results. But very often brands are thinking about incremental results. How do I get a slightly better media plan? How do I get a slightly better TV campaign? How do I get slightly better performance in clicks? How do I use AI to reduce my expenses? All of that is absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with incrementalism. Incrementalism can build a good brand. It can build a good career. But I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning saying, I want to have a good brand. I want to have a good career. I think what we all want to do is chase greatness. And chasing greatness means that we need to lean into the goal of exponential results, not just incremental results. And that requires courage and it requires tenacity. So think of it this way. As we know in the world of advertising, if you want to get somebody to remember your brand message through a TV campaign, you need to repeat that campaign to an individual 7, 8, maybe 9 times. If you call a salesperson and you say, what does it take to get in touch with a specific prospect? They will all tell you it requires 7, 8, maybe 9 touches. Very similar metric, 2 different objectives and vehicles. And the same thing is true of leveraging courage to drive exponential results. Meaning, when brands and executives are asking for a specific deliverable, and you think you have a better idea, you've got a full consumer journey-based immersive content coupled with atomized content that has emotional content and functional content. You're able to use all forms of media from owned to earned to paid. Well, you're not going to be able to just share that idea and have the brand buy into it. It simply doesn't work that way because they may be expecting something fundamentally different. So first of all, you need to be able to always deliver upon the ask. But second of all, what you need to be able to do is slowly unfold that idea. Like an ad campaign, like sales, to my aforementioned point, it probably requires 7, 8, or 9 different touches. But unlike an ad campaign, when you're trying to sell in those big ideas, they need to slowly unfold. It's not about showing the same idea 7, 8, 9 times in a row, but let the idea slowly unfold and use courage at every step along the way. Somehow in our business, we've become addicted to texts and paragraphs and data, and we create these decks that are mostly pretty fucking boring. And the idea is, how do we not only ignite the imagination, which we talk about with end users, with our target audience, but how do we ignite the imagination of the executives internally? So let's not create information overload. Let's slowly but surely share the ideas and share the decks without the information overload. It's not coming in and selling the big idea. It's about incremental sales, one step at a time. Very often a deck might be 1 page. It might be 3 slides. It might be, let's go grab a beer and talk through this and really listen more than talk. And let me tell you something. You will fail more than you will succeed, whether you're on the brand side, whether you're on the agency side. If you totally believe that a revolution is taking place, if you totally believe that it's absolutely paramount to look at the world through the lens of the audience, not the brand, because there's muscle memory. There's institutional muscle memory. We are hopelessly addicted to doing things that were invented literally in the 1950s. How do we interrupt people, and how do we do it over and over and over again? So if you want to change the world, there's going to be a lot of failure along the way because you're fighting against that institutional muscle memory. One of those keys to being courageous is fighting through those critical moments. AI was a hot topic at Cannes, with the industry talking about AI being used to save money, increase volume, and optimize performance. Is that how brands should be thinking about AI, or is there something missing? Yeah, I feel like every Mailbag episode is probably going to have some AI topics. And I think the one thing that nobody seems to be talking about enough right now is that it's not just brands that are going to have AI. Consumers are also going to have AI. And they're going to be able to see through all of our bullshit. For years and years and years, if you're totally pragmatic about the whole thing, and the advertising industry did this, you could exaggerate your claims as a brand. And we did that until the digital revolution. It's why we actually created the documentary, The Naked Brand. Our point is that brands are now transparent and people can see through the bullshit, and they're looking for more than exaggerated claims. They're looking for more than superficial messages. They're looking for more than being interrupted over and over and over again. All of that happened a couple of decades ago with the digital revolution, but now, I'm going to use the word again, it's taking off exponentially because of AI. And ultimately what it means are people are going to want a lot more from brands than interruptions and superficial messages in the same campaign repeated over and over and over again. They're going to want brands to embrace the value exchange, recognize that people are investing not just their hard-earned dollars, that's the easy and obvious part, but they're investing their most precious resources, their time, their attention, their data, their ratings, reviews, and recommendations. In exchange, they're looking for brands to create content that brings value to their lives, that empowers them, that informs them, inspires them, and educates them. And the data is proving it out right now already. And I'm not talking about New York City and San Francisco and LA. I'm talking about the entire country. The majority of people, 58% of people have already used AI to help them with shopping. That's up from 25% in 2023. It's more than doubled in a year. And here's a crazy one. Last holiday season, AI-powered searches increased 1,300%. It's doubling literally every single month. So ultimately what this means is all of the tools that we've used for decades and decades, our desire to interrupt and entertain, convince and cajole, it's not going to be that needed. People are looking for not just ads, but content, emotionally engaging content and functional content. Content that helps people understand what makes you different, what makes you better than the competition. Why should they invest their hard-earned dollars in buying your products? Why should they invest their hard-earned time, attention, ratings, and reviews in investing their time absorbing your content? This is a fundamental shift. But if you look and you were to do a search and you were to walk the streets of Cannes, what's everybody talking about? How can I make more content? How can I create cheaper content? How can I save money? How can I get rid of my actors? How can I get rid of my production teams? And all of that is relatively true, right? Our content creation is going to fundamentally change. And I think what's going to happen with that fundamental change in our content creation is that we're going to have more content. We're going to create a bigger cacophony. People are going to ignore us even more at the exact same moment that they've got AI to conduct their own research. Where should I go on vacation? Which golf club should I buy? Which cooking appliances should I purchase? Which B2B software is going to get me promoted? All of these decisions that are large and complex will be fueled on the consumer side, on the buyer side, by AI. And we need to invest in not simply better products and better customer service. That's grossly obvious. If I was a CEO, I'd look down at my income statement. I'd say, how do I take dollars away from my paid media and put it into products? How do I take dollars away from my paid media and put it into better customer service? But at least on the CMO level, where we don't get to control those things, start investing in meaningful content. Start investing in mapping the entire consumer journey. Understand every single person's unmet emotional needs and understand their unmet functional needs and create content that fulfills upon those needs, and then use data to carry them through their journey seamlessly, not simply interrupt their journey. And the next question, not surprisingly, another AI topic. A lot of people are worried about AI's implications for the human race. Do you think that we should be worried, and are you personally worried about the ad industry's role in advancing AI? I think about this a lot, like where are we going? And if you're raising a teenager or someone in college, you realize like it is it's both scary and exciting to think where AI is going to take us, because we can only guess, and we know that the vast majority of jobs that white collar people typically have in their 20s are rapidly going away. And here's a really powerful way to think about it. At least it was for me. Humans have been on the planet for anywhere between 2.5 million years and 300,000 years. There's a lot of gray area between Cro-Magnon and then ultimately standing on their own 2 feet and starting to talk and all of that stuff. Let's use 1 million just so we have a nice even round number. Human beings were on the planet for 1 million years, stuck on the ground, can't go anywhere. And then at one moment, after 1 million years of this, the Wright brothers figured out how to fly. 66 years later, after figuring out how to fly, we put a person on the moon. That is a crazy concept. We went from 120 feet at 6.8 miles per hour to 240,000 miles at 25,000 plus miles per hour in just 6 decades. Think of it this way. If we were to build a timeline that's about the average width of an office or a conference room, 30 feet, just to pick a number. In that timeline, over 30 feet covered 1 million years of human history. The 66 years it took us to go from, holy shit, we just flew, to holy effing shit, we just put a man on the moon. That 66 years is the width of a sheet of paper on that timeline you built in your office. From a couple feet away, the width of a sheet of paper, you can't even see it. It's so thin. That's how exponential technology can be. We can go from nowhere to man on the moon in 66 years. Mathematically, if you actually run the 66 and the million as the numerator and denominator, it's something like 0.00006% of time. It's nothing. So here's my Jack Handy deep thought. This is what I've been thinking about a lot lately. There's a great comedian, and his name is Nick Bergazzi. And I'm sure some of you guys have seen this bit. It's gone quite viral. We're going to play it right now.
Our dog sleeps in our bed, and someone told me you're not supposed to do that because you lose dominance over the dog. And I asked him, I said, what year do you think it is? These are all doodles. They're barely dogs. It's a person. They're people.
I just think that it's just one of those indisputable truths that only a comedian can come up with, right? And the idea there is dogs aren't dogs anymore. If you look at their DNA, you guys have seen the data. They're like 99% plus the DNA of a wolf. But in reality, they fundamentally changed. And his point is like, dude, it's 2025. Like, these dogs aren't what they used to be in yesteryear. You're no longer like, you're the master. And then he goes on with this bit, and it's like, dude, they're not even dogs. They're doodles. Like, they've been on this exponential curve from like, they were once wolves, and then they're German shepherds, and now we've got all these soft little breeds and these little ankle biters, and now we're turning a high percentage of them into doodles. I've got one. I've got an Aussie doodle. You think you got the cutest dog in the world? F off, dude. I've got the single cutest dog in the world. I hope everybody feels the same way. But the point is, they're not what they used to be. And here is my AI Jack Handy deep thought. We, as human beings, we're turning into doodles. Think about human history, right? Think about how brutally tough it was. You don't have to go back too many centuries to think about knights in armor. Like, we think about these incredible battles that they got into, but like, dude, if they took a sword to the elbow and they got an infection, they would die. Think about men, women, families going across the prairies of America. America is one of the youngest countries on the planet. And within that time frame, a couple hundred years ago, these people would literally die. Sounds gross, but it's true. You could die from hemorrhoids. You could die from like a bug bite. You can die because your sworn enemies want to scalp you. And then you fast forward to today, we are so much softer. Just the same way that dogs are so much softer than they used to be when they were wolves. But then what we did to dogs is we started breeding them with poodles. We turned dogs into doodles, and they got softer and softer and softer. And I don't think any of those dogs are like, dude, I wish I was a wolf sleeping out in the cold in the forest all night. No, it's a great fucking life. Same thing is true for us. AI, that's our doodle, man. That's what's going to advance us upon the exponential curve. We are just going to fundamentally change as human beings. Our tolerance for pain is going to become extraordinarily low, particularly in this country because we're so gifted with our economy and our natural resources. So what does that mean for brands? Like, I don't know. I'm off on a pretty crazy Jack Handy tangent, but I would say that if there was any implication, if I want to sort of zero this back to the thesis statement of this entire podcast, like the tolerance for pain is going to be so low. Your competition isn't simply your competition. Right now, your competition is Amazon. Right now, your competition is Uber. Right now, your competition is DoorDash, meaning we have no tolerance for friction. We have no tolerance for macro friction, micro friction. We have no tolerance for ad campaigns that interrupt us, ad campaigns that don't make any sense, ad campaigns that treat us like we're stupid, websites that are confusing, apps that don't work, checkout windows that don't function, retail environments that are confusing or people don't smile, customer service numbers where people don't answer the phone or they don't speak clearly. Like, there's just no tolerance for friction. And I do believe that we can think about things as a hierarchy. And I do believe in the power of great content. I do believe in the power of great ads. I do believe in the power of paid media, obviously. But first and foremost, we need to think about a hierarchy of needs. And we're not fully doodles yet as human beings, but we're getting softer and softer every day. So the way to build a great brand is to first and foremost remove all that friction in the journey. Secondly, start thinking about empowering people. And then from there, continue up that pyramid till finally you can start launching some really powerful and influential campaigns leveraging paid media. But if you're skipping steps along the pyramid, you're going to have dramatic inefficiencies and it's going to fundamentally impede return on investment. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on Brand Champions. Jordan will be back next week and the content will be so much better. Have a great day.
Brand Champions is a Questus production. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and review wherever you tune in. You can submit mailbag questions to brandchampions@questus.com.